Welcome back, friends. This is Marty. I have made a new build guide for you, and this time it's made around the unique head item called Genesis Helmet. Don't worry if you haven't got the helmet, you can still play the build and strive after getting this helmet later on. In this guide we will go over gear, active skills and passive skill tree, and also how you need to spend your attribute points. So what Genesis allows you to do is getting AoE damage or AoE healing based on either shadow or sacred ailments. Sacred lets you apply weakness to his targets, and shadow lets you apply curse to your targets. Once you get 5 stacks on a target, you will get the proc effect of either weakness, damage or curse healing. So the idea here is to get as many procs as possible to gain more AoE damage and also AoE healing going. Now, we need to ensure that we are able to place the ailments to our targets. If you take a look here at my damage sheet, you can see that I am able to place both weakness and curse to my targets. All your ailment damage from your equipped gear are shown in the sheet, and the two highest is the ones that you are able to apply to your targets. Normally you can only apply one ailment type to your target, but we have a point spent in our passive skill tree that allows us to place 2 ailments, and I will show this later in the skill tree. Now, to make sure our sacred and shadow damage are doing the highest damage, I am using 2 one-handed weapons, a battle hammer with 3 gems with sacred damage and a dagger with shadow damage gems. This way you are certain that sacred and shadow damage will be the highest on your ailment damage sheet. Also, because of the skills I've chosen, we are able to deal more different ailments to the targets through our skills such as weakness, bleed, poison, curse and burn. I have done this because we are using Immortal Offering from the passive skill tree. If we can deal all 5 damage types to the enemies, we will gain 5 stacks from each type, granting us up to 125% extra damage. Our chest piece also got the Manic Slaughterer fix that grants us extra damage per 100 unspent rage points, which will help us to scale up our damage a little bit. Now let's start with taking a look at our gear and the attribute points. First off, we are using the Genesis helmet as mentioned earlier. If you haven't got this helmet, get one with ferocity and heavy armor. For shoulders we are using Envoy of War. This gives extra attack damage, and the other one is granting us material damage, attack speed, toughness and cost reduction. Our amulet got a socket for 20 plus ferocity. It's also granting us 20 ferocity by itself, material damage and critical hit chance. Also adding damage to attacks is needed on this item for maximum damage. Our chest piece is a heavy armor with all resistances, 3 gem slots for dodge gems. Remember, if you dodge, you resist the damage 100%. 7 plus damage per 100 unspent rage points as well, and 5% added block chance, and allow any weapon to block. Get ferocity on both hands if possible, and whatever gives the most damage here, you can get attack speed also, or if you got the unique gloves, you are golden. I am using 2 Sanis stash rings for the attribute overall gain and movement speed, cause I really love that. Now, get a belt with critical hit chance, critical hit damage and ferocity. If you can get one as well with max rage from a Cerasil dungeon mode dungeon, that will be perfect. We are using heavy legs with a gem slot with dodge, cooldown reduction and resistances. Allow any weapon to block here as well. As for the boots, Freight Combat Cleats boots for agility and movement speed. And finally, your weapons. You need one one-hander and one dagger to be able to use the current chosen skills. Also, on both weapons, you must have critical damage plus 25% at least, and 3 sockets on each weapon is the best. Critical hit chance is also nice, and life leech on at least one weapon. When spending your attribute points, spend about 100 points into wisdom and spend the rest into ferocity. This will let you get the ailment chance to about 25%. So, active skills now. Let's start with Warpath as our right-click mouse button attack. Using the modifiers Everlasting Ember, Overwhelming Impact and Burning Lifeblood. This is one of my favorite skills. It does a ton of damage and aftershock and applies burn and poison stacks in my current setup here. Next up is Sovereign Shout with the modifiers Raging Berserker, Rallying Cry, Dawnbreaker and the Hostile Inspiration. This will grant us more rage, health globes and weakness stacks on the targets close by and more effectiveness on all buffs. Remember, we have multiple buffs on. Slayer's Flurry is next with the modifiers Super Dense Metal, Piercing Shadows, Flashing Blades and Final Eclipse. This will allow us to deal more damage and shadow damage to increase our chance of applying Cursed to enemies hit. Bleeding Edge with the modifiers Wicked Swing, Unstoppable Momentum and Astral Orbit will let us use this ability as when enemies come too close as protection and extra damage. Havoc Orb with the modifiers Massive Blast Zone, Blood Seeks Blood, Magnificent Explosion and Extreme Fragmentation. This will let us do bleed damage and increase damage by this ability. This is our boss nuke ability for elite packs and bosses. Damage is unbuffed around 5.1k with a chance to crit 431%. That is around 20k with buffs. We can come much higher yet. Now let's dive straight into the passive skill tree. So let's talk a little bit about the passive skill tree here, and as you can see we got Immortal Offering here, which is the one that are giving us stacks for each ailment type that stacks on top of the enemy, and we have 5 different ones, 5 stack each, which will grant us around 125% if we got fully buffed. Now let's just go through the major nodes here. The next one is very important, is the Grievous Afflictions node. This one makes us able to apply 1 additional ailment type. This is what lets us apply cursed and weakness stacks onto the targets. So this is very important, guys. And also this Merciless Lethality over here is granting us a ton of critical hit damage, and also this big node here, 50% critical hit chance score. And another thing I want to mention here with the tree is here over in the Praetorian we got 10% extra block chance and allow any weapon to block. This stacks on top of 2 of our items as well. So in total we have 20%, and which will grant us, you know, a lot of damage reflection here. So which is pretty nice, right, for the survivability. And down here we also apply weakness stacks when we are blocking attacks. So when we are blocking attacks, we apply weakness stacks as well, which will help us with the proc on the helmet. So this is a win-win situation, I think. And well, we got extra health, force shield, and you know, you can check it out and you can build it yourselves. And this is the way that I make the build. So by the way guys, I hope you are as excited as I am regarding the Wolcen launch this month. It's going to be so much fun to explore the new acts and make new builds. And big kudos to the Wolcen team for making it happen guys. I hope you like this build guide and make sure to subscribe for more builds in the future, and I will leave you guys with the rest of the gameplay from this Wrath of Ceratal dungeon. Peace out.